Hello and welcome to another interview on Reboot TV. I'm Gregory J. Baker. To my left is Grace Markham, or Gracie, and Stephen A. Jakes.
Hello.
And today we're going to interview mainly Grace here with interaction from Steve. And what we're going to be talking about mainly is Grace's where she was before the programme that we talk about. A little bit about during the programme, and then perhaps where she is now. Grace did the programme somewhat, was it 4 years ago almost?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it was
4 years ago, so in the early days of the programme. And so since she has been rebooted or stroke transformed, we're going to look at where she is at the day, and then we're going to talk a little bit about if anything's resonated for you or familiar with you in this interview or this video, and we'll give you some pointers of where to go. So without further ado, we'll crack on. Are we ready, guys?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. Are you ready, Grace?
You ready, Grace?
Great.
Feeling comfy?
Okay.
Good. Okay, so first off then, and I'm already thinking about how we met, but little high five there. It sounds ominous, it's not like that. But just what brought you to participate in the programme? I don't know if you can remember that way, but that far back now. But
I was really unhappy with my life, and I met you, and you were such a positive, happy person, and just having you around in the same sort of social situations kind of drew me to your personality. And yeah, I was so unhappy, and you discussed with me what you were doing about the programme, and it really made me want to make a change in my life, which at the time I thought was not possible.
Yeah.
But there was a little part of me that did want to try.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't think it was possible at all.
No, it's really interesting because when I first met you, I mean, you turned up at the seminar. So there's 3 stages to the programme. There's the actual 4-day programme itself, which we call Genesis. Then there's the stage 2, which is live, which is the stage before that. It's a day. But then there's the first stage, which is it was a seminar in your day, wasn't it? And you came to a seminar, I remember. I think you sat at the back with Leah, wasn't it?
I did. I sat at the back. I don't remember who I was with, but I sat at the back. And yeah, I remember someone else getting very emotional during it. And that made me feel a little bit... It was such a weird feeling because I had my own problems, but then I knew why this other person was so upset. And I felt like my problems weren't big, really, that I shouldn't be worrying about them, that I shouldn't even be inquiring to sort them out, and that I should be able to sort them out on my own.
That you didn't matter.
Yeah, I didn't think, like, I just put this woman on a pedestal basically and thought, no, she's
got problems.
Yeah,
she's really got problems.
She really has, and I felt for her so much. I remember I was crying at that seminar, and yeah. So that was the introduction to
that was, and whilst you were intrigued, actually your subconscious actually thought, well, actually maybe my problems aren't as bad as they are, even though they actually are, because and just for the people watching this, everyone's problems, you cannot compare them to somebody else. You just cannot. Your problems are your problems. It's how you deal with it. If they're making you unhappy, it's irrelevant what the trigger is and what the how you rate that. By you rating it as being less than someone else, that's because your self-worth and your self-love is low, or as we have a distinction about mattering, you actually don't matter. And what you're doing is you're making someone else matter more than you, and there'll always be someone with something that seems worse, but at the end of the day...
I agree. No, I was going to just say that because I think what most of us do, and most of the people out there, and I was exactly the same, is that we know that we've got problems, and what we do is we do everything in our absolute must to avoid them. So we will lie to ourselves about how we're feeling. We'll lie to ourselves about the situation we're in, the relationships that we have, the people that are around us, the job that we're in. Every single thing about what's really going on for us is we lie to ourselves about it.
And it's keeping you stuck in that very thing.
Exactly, and it will keep us stuck. And what also ends up happening is that because obviously you're so unhappy and you get stuck in it, you're really frightened to actually move on, and so therefore all of a sudden you'll start making up all these excuses, all these lies about, well, actually I'm not that bad, I'm all right, I'm really not as bad as that person. Actually, is it just me? Am I just being like silly here? But really, inherently, you're not. But it's just the fact that we're socially conditioned to not be able to express or share or put ourselves first in a way that's really important to us. And I think that and everybody's doing that. And I was included.
So it's a really great distinction you got there, because you basically what you did live was put your problems on hold, even though actually they're still going to make you unhappy, because you'll finish the seminar and you'll go off and you'll think, well, but I'm still unhappy. I still don't want that. And temporarily you put yourself on hold. So just people out there, doesn't matter how trivial you think your problem is, if you're unhappy and it's ruling your life, then that needs to be sorted, however trivial. And obviously it works whether you think you've got more problems than anyone else. It's the same. So I remember when you did the seminar, you then booked what is now called the Live. It was the workshop in those days. And I remember you doing that, and we had an interesting day that day, if I remember correctly. And then you booked the programme, didn't you? You know where I'm going with this, don't you?
Exactly.
So, and you might not know this, but so can I just say how you occurred for me before you did the programme?
Okay.
So Grace cried at everything. And it got worse and worse and worse till it was actually you couldn't mention anything without her crying, and then it would and you just wanted to give her a cuddle, but it was getting to the point it was debilitating for you, wasn't it? You all right?
Yeah, fine. No, I'm not going to cry. Don't worry.
But it was people would have to sort of tip down because you're such a gentle, kind person, and you were crying at everything. Anyway, then you eventually booked the programme, and we arranged how you were going to do that, and then you arranged the date. And then you cancelled, and then I don't know what happened, but then you arranged to get. This happens a few times because people get nervous because you're going to transform. It's an uncomfortable process, and it is absolutely transformational. So you become in your head unrecognisable for a form of you. Another way of putting it is we reconnect you to the true you, which as you grow up you disconnect with, and you. I think you booked and cancelled, I think, a further 2 times, didn't you?
Yeah, I kept doing it. I kept getting these feelings of, no, I'll be able to sort it out myself, it's fine, I don't need help or anything. I started over-analysing all these emotions that I was going through. But then every time I felt like a little bit weaker and thought, no, I can't actually help myself, I'd come to you.
Yes.
And then we'd book something in and I'd be crying my eyes out. And then I'd have a little moment of being stronger for a few days and then think, oh no, I'm okay actually. I can work through all my issues in my own head.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very up and down. Lots of emotions going on, hence all the crying.
Yeah. So would you say there's...
Oh, well, I was going to say, so I see this in so many of the people that, me included, and the people that do Reboot, is that there's two areas. First of all, is like you hit a nail on the head, is everyone thinks that they can solve their problems. And the fact of the matter is they can't, because otherwise they would have already done it. Correct. So the situation is to think, oh, I'm all right, I know what to do. I used to say to so many people, my business coach and my coach and people, oh, I know what to do. Well, so if you know what to do, do it. No, I know what I need to do. Well, do it then. If you don't know what to do, otherwise you wouldn't be here and you wouldn't be having the problems that you've got. So this is that thing that we convince ourselves and maybe lie to ourselves or have a misconception or misunderstanding that we actually think everything's going to be all right, when realistically it's not. It's just that we convince ourselves it's not, because we actually believe or tell ourselves that we think we know what the problem is when we actually fundamentally don't. And then what also happens is that we, consciously or unconsciously, we don't like the way that we feel. So we'll have a few days where we're really, really down, and you'll think, do you know what, I'm pissed off feeling, I don't want to feel like this anymore. And then what happens is you start using willpower, you start using energy to lift you out of where it is. And what happens is you'll go, do you know what, and you'll start using energy, and then you're lifted out of that way of feeling. You think, do you know what, actually I'm all right. And what's happening is you're using willpower and energy to sort of keep you above it, and you're focused on using energy. But at some point that energy is going to drop. And when that energy drops, that's when you fall right back down to where you want to go, oh, I'm really, really crap again, I'm really, really crap. And you'll stay there for 2 or 3 days. You'll go, I'm pissed off for feeling like this. And then you use energy again and lift yourself out. And you'll go, oh, do you know what? Actually, I think I'm all right. There's nothing wrong with me. And then you'll drop. And you're just doing these ups and downs, where you're lifting yourself out of it and then falling back into it. And lifting yourself out of it and falling back into it. And I think the majority of the people that I speak to and coach and talk to and do this work with, even me, that's exactly what I did. And that's why I think fundamentally that's what's happening. And we sort of have this misconception that we think we know what the problem is, and we have that respite when we're using energy to get out of it.
Yep.
But actually, it's not actually solving the problem. It's just just avoiding it really.
Or it's actually sustaining it. And keeping it further from you.
Sustaining it, yeah, it's a very good way of doing it. So I just wanted to point out because I think that's something that I found out and something I just saw in what you were doing.
And that's what happened, and I'll never forget that. But then you had the guts to actually participate in the programme. And so what brought you to the programme was basically every part of your area of your life, your family, your relationship, mum, dad, your husband at the time, work-related issues. That's quite nicely put. Yeah. And there was a whole gamut of things. And they all added up, and you felt probably. What did you?
How did you function? Yeah. How did you function in? I mean, because from what I'm hearing, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I know that we all do it. We all get through life somehow with the most horrendous of stuff going on. I'd had loads of stuff going on, but I look back and think I don't know how I actually did it. So what were you going through? What was your experience at the time?
Everything was so interlinked, and I just at the time I was on antidepressants because I thought, this is going to help me. Obviously, I wasn't getting to the root of the issue, but I was so unhappy. I was in a religion which I've been brought up with my parents, and I wasn't happy in that. Didn't want to be in that at all. But I'd grown up in it, and I felt like I couldn't leave. I was also married, and my husband was in that religion. His whole family were, and in that religion, if I was to leave, none of my family or my friends were allowed to talk to me. So at the time I felt like if I leave and do what I want, I'm going to be alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was that. The fear of actually having nothing and no one and being left alone. Exactly. And so taking that step was scary because of that. And there was also the fact with work, I was having an affair. So I was cheating on my husband, which in the religion's eyes as well was bad.
Yeah.
So it's
just generally considered bad outside of the religion.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not necessarily religion, I think.
Yeah, true.
I've never done it, so I wouldn't know.
No, that's added to some joy of this video.
But yeah, all of that was bad. And then obviously my parents didn't know, and I thought, they're going to be so ashamed of me because of the religious side of things as well as being my parents. And I just didn't. The way that I spoke to them and the way that I acted with them, because I had all these feelings with the other issues that I didn't want to discuss with them, I just didn't get on well with them because...
Well, you're lying to yourself,
you're
lying to your husband, you're lying to everybody, lying to your mum, your dad, and that will be eating you up. We call those emotional cancers.
Yeah, and the other thing as well, which a lot of people don't realise, is that your subconscious can't lie.
No, it can't.
It has the inability to lie. So everything that you ever do, every action you ever take, in your life throughout your whole life, and I'm sorry to say this, people, because probably most of you have done this and will have done this, but or are doing it now and still doing it and intend to do it. But what happens is your unconscious brain can't actually lie. So the more wrong that you know that you're doing,
correct,
the more that you have more of these cancers that go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And what ends up happening is people start doing more bad things to get away from the bad thing, and then more bad things and more bad things, and then so what ends up happening is that you unconsciously start eating yourself up alive because you just.
Which I think was what's happening for you.
Because even though I tried to stop the affair many a times, I'd get this feeling of, well, it's gone on now, so I might as well do it again, and I just get all these overwhelming feelings of having to do more bad things, like you just said, because they'd make me feel temporary, better.
Temporary fix.
Wow, so actually continuing the behaviour that's incongruent with your heart actually was a temporary fix, so it'll be okay. So it gave you a temporary
because it's avoiding the actual issue that you're going through. It doesn't matter what it is, whatever you do.
It's almost like resetting.
Yeah, well, it is in a way. But if you think you're doing something bad, and that's what it is, by doing something else, right or wrong, actually is an avoidance of that issue. So it is a temporary fix because you're no longer immersed in the feelings or the emotions of that event. You've actually done something else, and so once that energy then wears out, you then you'll fall back into that, and that's a bit like the up and down thing. It's a similar sort of thing.
Right. No. Yeah. So then
what next?
What was next?
Well, I'm trying to think. So they were all so interlinked, and it really was kind of where do we start? But I just didn't know where to start because with the religion, I wanted to get out of it for so long, but I felt like I couldn't. I felt trapped.
Yeah.
With the affair, I felt trapped, but then I felt a little bit obsessed with this person because it was kind of a
distraction.
Yeah, it was a distraction. It was a getaway for me
Yep.
for what I didn't want.
Yes.
So it was serving a purpose in that way. It
Yeah.
was keeping you in this feedback loop.
Well,
of
this
hell.
is another bad behaviour to get out of the thing that's giving you a bad experience. It is a distraction.
Yeah. So and then the thing is, my ex-husband, he was just so nice, which made it annoying because I wanted him to be mean to me because I was feeling guilty of what I was doing. So yeah, it was just all interlinked, and it was very emotional because I didn't know what was going to happen if I tried solving each area. I was kind of scared of being quite alone from all aspects, really. I thought I'd lose my parents, my husband, all my friends,
so there's a lot
this other guy.
Potential loss.
Yeah. So it was quite scary, and to even think of trying to solve them.
So just the thought of it prevented you, just the thought of these losses, so just actually imagining it was enough to stop you from actually doing anything about it. So for people out there, this sounds familiar to you, this happens to a lot of people, it's a normal thing, where I'll give you an example. If you have a loved one and you think about them passing away, if you just think about it, it makes you feel sick. You know, we've had loss. I lost my sister and I lost my mum, and talking to loved ones about the loss, just the thought of it can actually make you feel ill. And in nine times out of 10, it will stop people from doing things. However,
well, also you've got to realise as well, it is all imagined. It's all not real.
But it feels real.
It feels real.
Yep.
And this is the argument I have with a lot of people. Is that I've got this going on, that going on. So no, none of it's real. It's all imagined.
That's
Although
right.
it's real, what's really going on inside of you isn't actually real. It's something you're creating that, although it seems real, actually isn't, and it can be changed as soon as you change your perceptions and your behaviours and your beliefs around it. And the thing I see is that most people get stuck with actually taking that step, crossing the road. That's what you've got to do. You've actually got to cross the road.
Yeah.
Most people walk up to the road and know it and go, it's a bit busy, and then I'll just stay on that side of the road where, by actually crossing the road to the other side, it changes your whole experience.
I like the analogy.
You've got to cross the road.
You've got to cross the road. You've got to, and there will be traffic. And
Yeah.
You've got to do.
Yeah.
So going back to so then you eventually you booked and then didn't book. Then you booked. Then so there was a point where I remember you spoke to Mark Constable, another graduate who now. Do you remember what he said to you? I do actually, believe it or not, because you rung him and I think we were in Med Fusion at the bar, and you said to him, "Oh look, and he goes, look, what have you got to lose in the end? Because look at the mess you're in. You were like crying every day, all the time, and even if it went wrong, at least you wouldn't be crying about all of that. You'd be crying about something new, and something switched in your head." I don't know if you can remember it now.
You know what?
Power of the programme.
Really didn't see it at the time. Like, I really didn't see
The possibility.
Yeah, I thought that I was going to be forever like that.
Oh.
Like, it's mad looking back now at the person that I was.
Yeah.
I can't believe
And it was real for you.
Exactly where I was. I thought it was ever going to change for me.
Mm.
So this is really important. I think pretty much everybody feels this pre-reboot. We feel that, and it's almost like a qualifying thing. If you feel that right now, that there's no way that you're in this endless loop, then this is like you're perfect to investigate what it is that we have. And at the end, we'll talk about.
I hear people saying, "Oh, I can't change. I'm like my dad. I'm like my mum. It is what it is. Oh, it's just life. You've just got to get on with it." And it's all just absolute. Again, this is all bullshit lies that you're telling yourself
and that you've made up
yep. Just to validate how you're behaving or what you're feeling, and it also stops you from taking action. If I turn around and say, "Oh well, I'm always going to be like this," well, now I've just taken away any possibility of ever solving it.
Absolutely, and sometimes those beliefs are really hard wired, and that was to some extent. But then you saw all these people that had been around on the programme saying, well, actually, I was like that in some respects. Obviously, the story's different and the content's different, but the fact remains that you feel stuck, you feel like this is permanent. So you did make the change, you did come on the course, you did turn up, and you decided, and you like Whisper Gold now, hot drink. And there are other flavours of chocolate and other manufacturers you can use. So do you remember, so you finally did come on, do you remember much about participating in the programme? I know it was some years ago, but
There's a few things that are really distinct to me. I remember throwing eggs off the balcony onto the car park.
You get liberated in this programme.
I just felt like it was so wild for me.
Yeah.
Like throwing eggs off the balcony. But I loved that feeling because I had so much like pent up anger.
Yeah.
That was amazing for me, and being silly was amazing for me. It felt really free, and I felt that I was really shown like unconditional love, and I really felt like I wasn't judged at all. And I think that was the first time I felt that I wasn't judged, because growing up in a religion,
you weren't judged, by the way. That's why.
But growing up in a religion where there's so many rules, and my parents and everything was so strict, that there is a judgment, and it felt like there was I couldn't do what I wanted to do. So it was like you gave me a little, I don't know, like you said, actually you can do what you want to do, and it felt a bit weird at first, like, no, I can't.
So would you say it's sort of an unconscious, conscious permission?
Yeah.
As if
it was okay.
It was okay.
Yeah, it was.
It was okay for just to be like that.
And did you feel safe? It was a safe environment?
Yeah, it was very safe, and sorry.
Sorry?
It was very safe, and it was safe because I could be myself, and I couldn't be myself with even friends and family, so that was what the relief was. And even if there was the most smallest thing, like I remember one other person saying that they hated the fact that they didn't have a dishwasher, and you said, well, why don't you get a dishwasher? And like it sounds so simple, but when you're in that space, it's like, well, I can't, you start overthinking everything, and every little thing seems like such a big deal. But I feel like you broke it down so much, and I remember writing lists of every single thing I was unhappy with, and you made me go into such detail.
Oh, this is the dissatisfaction.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, I love it. And even now, sometimes, if I've got something that's bothering me, I will write a list.
Wow, that's powerful.
I told you that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another... Because I actually brought this up, is that actually, I said this to Greg, I said to him, I think that when because I've actually done the same as you, straight after the course, it was really fresh for me. I found the dissatisfactions so cathartic, liberating, freeing of me that I actually said to him, when I got pissed off with something today, so I started writing it down and how that affected me. And I think what it actually does is it really does draw it out, and you no longer... Because if it works in that environment, then it must work in the present environment as well. And I think that should be a thing that we should try and encourage people to do after the event, because I think it does work, and it obviously works for you.
Yeah, it helps me. Like, even in daily life, if there's something that's bothering me, I just break it down and think, actually, it's not that big a deal. I can get what I want if I just look at it differently. And I think that was one of the big key factors for me, definitely, from the course.
So it was feeling. So let's think of the context of that. It's feeling safe. You actually got a space to really be who you are without any judgment, not even the slightest judgment.
Was that quite challenging for you? Because if you'd have been conditioned and been a sort of person for so long, to actually not be like that for maybe the first time in a very long time, that must have really felt quite strange and quite... challenging or unusual for you.
It was hard to be thinking in so much depth, actually. Like, it was really anything that pisses me off, anything. And so, like, it could even
I made you write everything down.
Yeah, it was so detailed. I can't remember how many I did, but it was a lot.
Few, yeah.
It was a lot, and
lots of hundreds.
Yeah. And it was so good and so refreshing to get it all out on paper and just have every single little detail, and then think, okay, so this is my issues.
And we broke it down. And we broke it down into stuff with your then partner, your mum, your dad, the other people that you were with, work, all sorts. And then we broke it down so that way there's a systematic approach, so you can then dedicate yourself on that section, if you like.
And this is what we call emotional cancers, and this is all that's going on in our lives that we don't actually know that are running the show, and we're not aware of them. So we get up, we go to work, we have a coffee, we say, all right, Dave, we'll bib and we'll swear at someone in the car, we'll go to work or whatever we're doing, but we don't actually realise that all of this stuff's actually going on inside, deep down, that's really running the show, that's running our decisions, our emotions, our beliefs. They're all hidden, and these are the things that actually stop us growing or actually bring us unhappiness. Keep us locked. Yeah, all of the negative stuff is all is there, and you don't even know they're there. And I think we're going to do a video on emotional cancers.
We are going to do one
anyway.
Yeah, so keep an eye out that for emotional cancers. Yeah. So there's safety, liberation, and we used the word cathartic, emotional release. Do you remember? I remember a very powerful moment where in the early days we used to do it in my apartment. I've got a sort of a top floor apartment with a big ceiling. And I remember we were doing some notes, and there's a bit at the end where we find out. I'm going to hand it over to Steve in a sec. Who talks about the blueprint. Do you want to just quickly talk about the what's inbuilt in you innately, the vision mission, basically?
Yeah. So basically, what we've got is when we're born, we're given like a blueprint to become an amazing human being with lots of skills, talents, or whatever. That's actually
unique to you.
It's unique to you. Yeah. It's actually unique to yourself. You actually have a blueprint that's in you. And then, obviously, as we go on through life, we learn from stuff from our parents, our school friends, our school teachers, our idols, our role models, pop stars, film stars, friends, colleagues, whatever. And when we start learning those behaviours and copying them because we see it work for them, we become more and more and more detached away from our innate authentic self.
Yep.
And so what happens as we go through life, the further and further we get away from our authentic self, the harder it is and the more challenging it is and the more disconnected we have between what we think and what we feel.
And who we are.
And absolutely who we are, yeah.
And so there was a point where we were about, I think in those days it was only 3 days, but there was a point where I started to get into your head. And I never forget, I was able to get some really key points of who you are. And you literally jumped round the side of the table, and I went, "You're right, yeah." And you said, I think the words were, "I feel like you've just violated my brain." Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And that to me is, I've got you. As in, I know I've got because it was such a connection. Does that make? Do you remember that song? I never forget it. I've got a video of it in my head. So then you found out why you're here and how you did that with precision that was unique to you. What happened after that? Do you remember, or did you remember that liberating moment, or how was that for you?
What, when I figured out my...
Yeah, when we figured out your vision and mission.
It was a strange feeling because I wanted to make sure that it was right as well, because I thought it was correct. And even now, I still remember that it was about to show myself unconditional love so that I'm always happy, something like that. And I remember discussing with you why I love dogs so much, because they're so happy and they're always, they love you no matter what. And I remember that was a big key into my vision and mission. So I remember it took a while to nail it down, the specific wording, but it was so interesting. It's amazing how well it applies to me.
Just because it's unique to you,
Now,
Did you find, because when I had mine, I was sitting there literally beaten up, I've done 4 days, I don't know what this is about. I thought I was going to feel a lot better, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm here, I've just been beaten the shit out of, I'm moody, I'm grumpy, I'm sitting there, I'm going,
he really was.
Whatever, right, okay. And he said, and then we done the vision, and when he worked it out and he told me it, I literally went from that to literally, oh my God. And at that particular point, every negative emotion and negative experience I had, and there's a lot of them, right? The abuses, the betrayals, the losses, the money, the house, everything, all that emotional attachment to that was gone. And I was like, I can't feel that anymore. I literally could not feel anything that got me to that point. And so I literally physically changed. I literally jumped up, I was smiling, I had all this energy, I was laughing, I was Tracy, the girl that was doing me, freaked out because she thought I'd just completely lost it, because she'd seen me being this forlorn character sitting on the sofa, so just doing that. So I can distinctly really remember when we done the vision and mission, how neurochemically or physically it all changed for me, and I just literally shifted into a brand new person. Did you have that similar experience?
I felt more relieved, just because it was quite a draining thing, really, going through everything in detail. It's so emotional.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's tiring, really, but it was such a relief to be like, yeah, that makes sense. Those words make sense. They resonate with me.
Yeah.
So it was more of a deep breath, sigh. That's it.
Yeah.
And then since then, yeah.
Yes. So that's probably a perfect segue. So that's the programme. So in essence, very challenging, very uncomfortable. Possibly people describe it as the most uncomfortable thing they've ever done.
Is it also one of the best things you've ever done?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, I felt that.
Yeah.
That was limbic.
I actually don't think that I'd have changed my life if I had done it.
Yeah.
I really don't. I think I'd still be married. I think I still wouldn't get on with my parents. I think everything would be the same.
Oh my god. Only just more damaging in your mind.
Yeah.
And further down the line.
So, just recently, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about your recent acceptance of your new. Yeah, you've. So Grace has now been offered a placement. She's doing a degree. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
In child counselling. Okay.
Children and young person.
And children and young person. You've just got a placement at a place not too far from here in Essex, and so you're doing a lovely thing for lovely people. Your old job used to be you're quite a bright button. Used to be a web developer and proper code and everything. This one, she's smarty. But you've gone from that to a whole different thing, haven't you?
Yeah.
How
So
weird's that?
that's
Same
mad.
as me.
I know, it's mad, isn't it? How mad is
I had a
that?
web design company, and now I'm doing this.
So-
You had a software
I
company,
did.
now
I know.
you're doing
It's
this.
how bizarre.
I
Programming
know.
in a different
Ooh,
way.
Yeah, absolutely. Programming in a different way. I like that.
Do you like that?
Yeah, I really like that.
Context, mate. That's
Yeah,
me.
it's good.
So can you just talk a little bit about maybe personal life, relationships, maybe a bit on work, maybe just your outlook with friends and stuff like that. Just go for it. So since the reboot.
Well, obviously I lost quite a lot of friends.
Join the club.
I lost a lot of friends. I lost all my relationships. My relationship with my parents, though, that has been a work in progress. But now I talk to my mum pretty much every day, whereas I used to barely speak to them once a month. I used to avoid them.
And you thought if you come clean and be yourself, you'd lose the relationship with your mum and dad, and it's been the complete opposite in the long run. I mean,
no, that was an amazing feeling, because they said to me, no, of course we wouldn't, what's the word, disown you.
But you didn't know that.
That's
didn't.
going back to what we make up in our heads.
Yeah,
we
you
make
didn't know
this
that.
stuff up.
Know that.
And it was possible, given the religion and behaviour of other families and other
It's all
relationships.
made up.
Yeah,
But it's based on evidence of other
Yeah,
families.
yeah.
It's still made up. But
Still made up, yeah.
Yeah, so that's completely changed. And a lot of things I realise now was how I was acting, was creating this tension, blah, blah, blah with them. And then relationship-wise, obviously it ended with my ex. And at the time it ended really nicely, really civil, and that annoyed me at the time, because I just wanted him to be so angry at me. I admitted that I cheated and he was so nice about it. And
good man.
yeah, but I'm glad I went through all that, because I really wouldn't know what it's like now to be in a relationship I'm completely happy with. I can't imagine being like the person I was before.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I cheated, that's brought up so many emotions for me, because I know how possible it is, and I know how easy it is. So that, starting a new relationship after having done that to someone...
And we had a lot of chats about this, didn't you, when you first got with your new guy?
We did, because it's so hard not to keep thinking that that's going to happen to you, sort of thing. I thought that was going to happen to me because I had done it, and because I knew how easy it was. Like, if I saw... I don't know, if I saw him on the phone in bed like this, I'd be like, I used to do that. Like, you know what I mean?
So yes, because you were so good at it, you then could pick up on those things, because you were a master of it. I remember having that chat with you,
Even though he's a completely different person, different opinions on cheating and stuff.
You projected your experience onto him.
Exactly. With friends, that's changed a lot. Even now, it's still changing. I think the more that I develop even now and realise what I want in friendships, because it's all different areas really. Like, I realise what I want in a relationship, and I feel like I've got that now, and I feel like that I'm quite confident in that, as in whereas before I wouldn't have said anything that I was unhappy with or anything with my past relationships. I'm very much upfront about it now.
So you're being vulnerable and open. That way, if there is an issue, they can be dealt with, because life isn't perfect, we're all human. We were just talking to Jonathan Shaw earlier on a different one, worth watching the video on Jonathan Shaw. But we were talking about being vulnerable, and true relationships. I always talk about it as all the 4 seasons. It's not all love and cuddles, right? It's winter and the spring and the autumn.
Yeah, I think we're just socially though. We've all got this delusion, this 100% delusion that we can't do anything wrong. Like if we trip up the curb, I tripped up the curb because it weren't. It's always something else, or it's always somebody else, or it's never you. And so you've always got to be perfect, and you can't fail at anything, and you can't make any mistakes, and your ego kicks in. And we're all like that. And if you've got 2 people like that in a similar way, that's just so inauthentic, because you're not really being you. You're just coming up with excuses and blames and all the rest of it, and your ego, and it's always somebody else's fault. And there you got that's going on, then, and you've always got your guard up. Then how does that relationship ever develop and ever really grow? It's all fake. It's all fake. And then when all of a sudden you do get to know each other and the barriers start coming down, you start feeling threatened by your own, because it's the way it should be. You start feeling threatened by it because of the vulnerability, and then you start making up stories and acting differently to where you normally would. And then it's like, well, why are you acting this way? And so it gets really complicated. When if you were just basically vulnerable and authentic from the start and honest, then you don't have any of that stuff really to.
And I think no, absolutely. And I think what I've noticed for you, and again with Jonathan earlier on, but with yourself and myself as well, is having that courage to actually say, look, I'm just a human being. Yeah. I'm feeling upset now, and giving them the opportunity to show their love or not in that way. And that's been a real groundbreaker for you, because when I met you, you held everything in. Yeah, and now you've got. I mean, I know your other half, and he's awesome. If you're watching,
hello, mate.
You're awesome, mate. I love you. Both of you are a lovely couple, and it's great because he does. Oh, and I know he really cares. But what's important is you're able to be vulnerable and say that you're unhappy or I'm feeling a bit rubbish at the moment, and trusting that person to come back with that. So that vulnerability has come up from you living and being yourself, having participated in the programme. Anything else?
Well, work's changed completely as well. I decided to enrol in university, which was another thing I didn't think I'd ever do, or didn't have any.
You had confidence issues around all of that. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember. Even applying, I didn't tell anyone that I had applied either, because just in case it didn't all work out, I didn't want people knowing. So I didn't tell my parents until I got told I was going to it. Yeah, which was a bit of a shock for them, but it's
nice shock.
Yes, it's really nice to be doing something, studying something that I actually love, which I didn't even think possible.
Yes.
Do you think that do you think this whole programme actually gets you more in touch with? Well, I believe it does, because it has for me. Because since I've done this programme,
I'm just going to say yes.
I know, yeah. I know. I'm totally made for this line of work, and I have a natural gift for it. Okay. And Greg had already offered me the job before I'd even flipping done me.
Before you'd even been transformed.
Before you'd already been transformed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But do you think that doing this has really aligned you with your career as much as your real self, but also in line with who you are, and that sort of guided you into doing the career that you really want to do and feel comfortable doing, rather than just going to get a job at BT or being a salesperson or doing this, that, working in a shop just to earn money? You've actually doing now what's more in alignment with you. And
I do, because it doesn't feel like a job.
I would go over and do. I would high five. No, I'm going to high five that, because that's how it should be. Yeah.
God, that's
yeah. And I just feel like in all areas of my life now, I'm completely honest and true to myself and true to others, which I just was not before.
Hey, come on, stop it.
There is going to be an interview. I don't cry.
Soppy bacon. Yeah. No, it's just nice though.
Well, because before you were probably the biggest liar, one of the biggest liars that I've ever met.
Scary.
Yeah. So being true to yourself and being completely authentic and honest has transformed your life. Is that what we're saying?
It has. Yeah, and it's amazing that I remember I saw you a couple of weeks ago, and you said about how I used to cry all the time. And said actually she hasn't cried in about a year and a half.
What?
Yeah, I know. How good's that?
And it's just it's mad. And I've been thinking about it ever since. I've been thinking I don't cry anymore. It's so weird. And I think it's because I just get everything out at the time.
Yes, you're not building it up.
Yeah, I'm not building up
it's not
all
suppressed.
this frustration.
And you've created that life, you've created that environment, you've created your partner. Well, not created him, but you've created the situation and the circumstances you're in that gives you a safe place to be yourself. And you know, your thing is unconditional love, so that when you had that, now you're in that, and the work that you're involved with is, you know, you cannot judge, you know, young people that you're dealing with on a psychological and emotional basis. They really don't want to be. Their judgment is going to be the last thing. So whatever you do with those children, are very, very honoured and privileged and lucky to have you there.
Yeah, I agree.
So, is there anything you'd like to say in sort of summary from this interview, whether it's before, during, or after?
Would you like to tell anybody out there that's maybe watching this?
I would just say that if anyone's watching it and they think that they can't turn their life around, that they really can.
Wow.
And no matter what it is, I just think it can always be solved, and it really is you that's, as much as you hate to admit it, it really is you that's stopping yourself from going forward.
I kind of want to end there because,
I think we should end there.
But
really,
well, no, as in end, just stop it because I can't add to it. But I just wanted to thank you, Grace.
Yeah, no, thank you, Grace. It's been brilliant.
It's been brilliant.
So thanks you for being really open and honest and sharing your story.
And you,
lovely.
Of course.
I'll always share my story.
No, I know.
I'll share it to everyone.
You're still going to get thanked and acknowledged.
Thanks, mate.
That's all right, buddy. Fantastically popmungus. Okay, so just to wrap up then. If anything today has either resonated with you or sounds familiar, or you know, and I'll just urge you to you know, think about Grace's story. If this has touched you in any way, there's a few things you can do. One, you can go to. There's 3 links there. You'll see. One goes to a quiz that just gives you. It's very eye-opening and revealing. So it'll make you think about stuff, and it takes about 2 to 3 minutes. If you want to know a little bit more about what we do, then we do a thing called pre-sites, which is an informal discussion. They're usually held at the Two Brewers in Chelmsford in Essex at 6 o'clock.
Plenty of parking, nice pub.
Yep,
got
nice.
our own little area there.
If you don't drink, they do nice coffees and stuff.
Yep.
If you do, then it's a boozer basically. So, and we've got the flip chart there. It might be a little uncomfortable. You get to have an open discussion in a safe environment. We really don't judge. So if you feel that you'd like to come along to that, it's normally a very, I wouldn't say low attendance, I'd call it an intimate attendance. So going forward, there's not many people that come, and that means you get a decent amount of time with us.
Yeah.
And then, or if you're feeling brave and want to participate in a webinar, which is called Reboot Insights, there's one coming up. If you just look there, there's a click. You can click on the link for the booking. It's 2 hours. You'll need a camera and a mic because you will participate in it only briefly. But
that was similar to the seminar that you've done, which we now do online.
Yes, so it's a seminar we do, so the Reboot Insights, 2 hours, and it's normally 5 o'clock in the evening. There's one coming up, so again there's a link there. So the 3 things are: you can do a quiz, or you can come to an informal meeting. All of these things are free, so we'll leave it there.
Yeah, well, I also want to add is that we've also got some other interviews which we've recorded. They're currently on the YouTube channel Mind Project. So if you type in Mind Project, and you can go and see some other interviews, one with Adil Marcy, myself. We've also going to have one with Jonathan Shaw, and we've also, this one will be uploaded to that as well. And we've got a couple of other fascinating interviews with Vernon and Sandy. Vernon and Sandy have both done the programme and have changed their lives. So you can go to that Mind Project TV channel on YouTube, and you can see other interviews and some great information. There's also loads of resources on there as well. So there's some really great resources that I've sort of put together, or we've put together with different help in different situations. So there's loads of stuff there you can go and use and watch as well. So.
All right, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Grace, and here's leaving you some love. Ciao. Bye bye.